Hi, it's me, Alex, the stay-at-home reader. And I guess I just post one video a month now. Sorry, I don't know. That's just life right now. So the last time we spoke was for my mid-month October wrap-up, catch-up. We're now closing in on the last week of November, and I haven't updated with any of my reading. So let's fix that. I got a lot to talk about. I might have to split this into 2 videos. Although every time I say I'm going to make another video, I don't. Loud dog coming down the stairs to join us. So let's say hi. Hi. Okay. Sorry, no more shaking. Okay, so since my last video, October had a few more reads to it. 2 short stories for my book club meetup. We did like a 2 for book discussion. We read Washington Irving's Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Stephen King's Cycle of the Werewolf. Both were okay reads. I enjoyed the Irving more. I'm not the biggest Stephen King fan. Honestly, I've only read 11/22/63, which is not horror. And I've read Blockade Billy, which is a short story about a baseball player. So I'm not well versed in Stephen King, and the Cycle of the Werewolf is short. Every chapter is named for a month, so it's kind of gimmicky in that it was supposed to be like a calendar story with like 500-word like short stories for each month, and of course Stephen King bent that rule and went over. And so each month there is a killing in a small rural Maine town around the time of the full moon, and it is by a werewolf. I thought we find out way too early. I think around May you find out who the werewolf is. Some people in my book club did not know at that point until later. I thought it was very obvious. And so like that kind of threw me. Like, what's like, how does no one know what's happening? I don't know. I thought it gave it away too soon, and that kind of ruined it for me. Also, this was written in the 80s, I believe, and the language was atrocious. Awful. The main character is a boy who, was he in an accident maybe? And he uses a wheelchair. And the way his father is just like super cringe about the whole thing, like acting like trying to be okay with it to like an uncomfortable degree. The mother, you could tell she must have like these guilty feelings, so she's kind of like standoffish about the son's condition. And the sister was such a brat, and they use the word cripple over and over and over, and it's terrible. And I mean, I get that there's weird family dynamics, like siblings are jerks to each other always, and like bratty sisters are bratty sisters, and you could tell that she did really care about her brother, but she was always very much blaming him for his condition ruining things for her. And he ends up being a main character. He is the one to figure out who the werewolf is and help the town. There is also a fat character who is the victim in February. And like the language used to describe her and her pathetic life because she's fat, and no one would love her, so she's lonely, and it's Valentine's Day and she's all by herself because she's fat and disgusting. Like, honestly, I almost stopped reading in February. But for a book club, it's short. I found videos on YouTube, audiobook through YouTube videos, so I pushed through. I don't know that I would recommend it unless you're like a Stephen King fan and want to go through all his work. Legend of Sleepy Hollow I thought was more fun. I thought it developed the sense of place really, really well. Hudson Valley is not far from me. It's about an hour south. I've been there once a few years ago around this time of year. Actually, they do something called the Hudson Blaze, which is like a jack-o'-lantern festival exhibit. Huge, like with thousands and thousands of jack-o'-lantern sculptures. It's beautiful. And so I really just love the way Irving describes the landscape. And, you know, the early days of the country. And the story was funnier than I expected it to be. Ichabod Crane is very much a caricature and a very unlikable main character. I guess I forget that he is supposed to be unlikable and that really the whole Headless Horseman story is like a joke on him to get him to leave town. Because Tim Burton's like 90s, 2000, I don't know. The Tim Burton Sleepy Hollow movie kind of took precedence for me over the cartoon Disney short movie, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which is actually very faithful to the story, more so than the Tim Burton movie starring Christina Ricci and Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman and Johnny Depp as Ichabod Crane. So yeah, that movie very much had strays from the short story, and so reading the short story was like a whole new experience, even though I'm familiar with the story already. There's not much to say about it. I mean, it was fun, funny, and well written as far as like atmosphere and description. I listened to Reluctant Immortals by Gwendolyn Kiste, and this is a story that takes place, I've already forgotten it. Spoiler alert, I didn't love it. I didn't even like it very much, let alone love it. It takes place in the 60s or 70s, and it follows two women, Lucy, who is actually the female victim in the Dracula story. I've never read Dracula, and so I'm wondering if I had that history, like experience with the book, if I would have liked Reluctant Immortals better. The other character is B, which is short for Bertha, as in Bertha Mason, as in first wife of Edward Rochester from Jane Eyre. I have read Jane Eyre. It is one of my favorite books. That said, I understand why people don't like it, and all criticisms of it I 100% like, yes, agree with, but I still love that book. And so Bertha being an immortal character and the like fantasy twist they put on Edward Rochester's character was really weird. And then the plot overall, I can't even begin to describe it to you because I felt like it was pointless. But basically Lucy, her life's purpose is to keep Dracula separated into his separate urns so that he can never come back into a physical form. And what happens? But that he does. And Rochester has something to do with it. And Jane Eyre shows up. But she's just being played by Rochester. And they're just driving up and down the California coast. I don't know. I didn't like it and it felt pointless, and so I was hardly paying attention to the audiobook. Let me know if you had a different experience with it. Like, what did I miss? I guess the positives to it is the messaging surrounding choice and feminine autonomy. And that what made these men monsters was that they denied their victims that, and their stories give men too much power. So, like, yes, I'm on board for that. And I think that's what hooked me to be interested in the book in the first place. But the plot failed in overall delivery. And then ebook. So last video, my mid-month check-in, I had started the e-arc for The Haunting of Alejandra by V. Castro. I was granted an ebook edition through NetGalley. I believe the book comes out in April. So I made it about 80% through and I put it down. I haven't picked it back up. I was really liking it. I was really connecting with Alejandra's loss of self, her pain, her frustration, and like loving her children, yet battling with her depression and her fragile mental state. Her husband was a monster. Like, the book was reminding me a lot of Night Bitch by Rachel Yoder, which was like my favorite book of last year. That and Piranesi were my favorite books last year. But in Night Bitch, the husband, while like absent and less than helpful, he got better. When he realized what his wife needed from him, he provided that. The husband in The Haunting of Alejandra is an abusive asshole. And so the structure of their relationship is kind of chipping away at her emotionally and mentally. But this is a haunting story. It deals a lot with with a curse on her family that carries through the like women. And I guess that is meant to represent generational trauma, because the first woman in her family to have made this deal with a demon, basically for revenge, was an indigenous Mexican woman who wanted revenge on the Spaniards who had wiped out her village and basically made a sex slave out of her. And so she strikes a deal with the demon, and it ends up being a curse on her family generation after generation. And this is what Alejandra is dealing with. So what could be a powerful story about mental health becomes a paranormal story. And I think that is kind of dangerous messaging, almost like dismissive of a very real problem that is happening for Alejandra, for many women with this abusive relationship, with motherhood in general being stressful. But then it added this idea that like the reason she's contemplating suicide is because there is a actual monster telling her to. Which I expected. It's the haunting of, and so I didn't know if it's going to be allegory, if it's going to be literal. It turns out it's literal. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, so then the book also like leaves Alejandra and goes back to other women in her family line. And I didn't like that. I didn't like all the time jumping. I just kind of wanted to stick with her POV. And stay in her timeline. So it lost my interest. I thought it got boring. But my biggest problem was the way the dialogue was written. Awful. Awful, cheesy. I realized that it sounded to me less like a believable conversation and more like a training video you would watch for a retail job. You know, where like it's a little too choreographed and like it just wasn't authentic dialogue between characters. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to finish it. I've been focusing on the Skoden readathon, so that got pushed aside. Book haul time. I have a lot of books. It did not mean to buy books, but I did. And I did not mean to get so many from the library, but here we are. So, book haul time, and then we're going to finish this. Okay, we're going to end this. I will come back to discuss how my November reading has been going. I've been doing the Skoden readathon. I was going to attempt Nonfiction November. I'm on my second nonfiction book, but I have been having a blast with the Skoden readathon, hosted by Native Lady Book Warrior. We'll talk about that later. Okay, book haul. We'll do library books first. Some requests came in. New releases. Hester, a novel by Lori Lico Albanese. This is about it's not a retelling of the Scarlet Letter, but I guess it's supposed to be Nathaniel Hawthorne meeting a woman, Hester, who inspires the Scarlet Letter. I was supposed to be going to Salem, Massachusetts at the beginning of this month to celebrate my 13th wedding anniversary with my husband, which is actually on Halloween. It was way too expensive to go to Salem for Halloween, so we were going to do it the following weekend. But we didn't. We had to cancel our trip in order to celebrate our son's birthday. So worth it. He had a great time playing laser tag with his friends. His birthday's at the beginning of October, but his baseball season keeps us like our weekends full in October, so we had to wait for that to end. You don't care about any of this. Anyway, we were supposed to go to Salem and go to Nathaniel Hawthorne's home. And so when I was seeing this everywhere, I was like, yes, obviously I need to read it. So the hold came in, and it's been sitting on my shelf because it's not a Skoden book. Just like Jackal. Started seeing this everywhere. Not even sure what it's about. A young black girl goes missing in the woods outside her white Rust Belt town, but she's not the first, and she may not be the last. And so it's kind of like a homecoming story of a woman returning to her Pennsylvania hometown and racism thriller mystery. Been seeing it everywhere, requested it, and it came in much faster than I expected it to. And then I saw, I forget who. Leanne of Literary Diversions. This was on one of her tops and bottoms videos. This was a top. The Invited by Jennifer McMahon. A haunted house story, but an invited haunting. About what I gathered from her video is a woman renovating her house, and she is like sourcing material secondhand, and as she brings those materials into her home, she realizes that they carry energy in with them, and she's like creating a haunted house. So I put this on the list of books to vote for my book club when we met in October. So this was selected as the November read. So shit, I gotta get to that soon. Oh crap. The audiobook just came in on Libby. So I think I could do it by Wednesday. I have 1 week. I think we're good. Because, okay. I completed my Skoden bingo board. So, okay, time to move on. We'll talk Skoden later. Oh, Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I got like 3 chapters into it before I realized I was not going to blow through this quickly and then get to Skoden. I kept falling asleep. I'm going to give it another try before the library demands it back. But this is another booktube bookstagram made me do it. It is a modern day secret witch society story with a queer, possibly transgender element. I don't know too much because I just wanted to go in and enjoy it and let myself be surprised and carried away. But yeah, just picking the book up for bedtime was not working, and I was immediately falling asleep. So didn't really give it a fair shot, but at the same time it didn't really catch my attention. So we're gonna try it again. All right. The bonus prompt for the Skoden readathon was to read a graphic novel. So I picked up Redbone. This is the true story of a Native American rock band. I don't think I know the band, but I'm looking forward to reading this and looking them up. Not the best, like, I usually prefer like really bright, glossy graphic novels, and this is fairly muted, but it is a nonfiction graphic novel, so it's fitting. Oh, I just went to the library yesterday and had 3 holds to pick up. I swear everything comes in at the same time. And then while we were just hanging out in the children's section, I grabbed The People Shall Continue. This is a beautiful poem that gives like a Native history as well as like a hopeful outlook and more present day condition. So there's bright pictures, but it's just like a really long poem in picture book form. I can't flip, sorry. And so I have read this before with my kids, so this is going to be one that we take turns reading pages, discussing. Then I picked up Kapaemahu. There is a short film available online that goes with this book, so link that down below, and hopefully get that pronunciation figured out. But This is a story about spirits. 4 dual male and female spirits traveled from Tahiti to Hawaii. The name of their leader was Kapaemahu. They brought with them their gentle ways, miraculous cures, and healing arts. Beloved by the people, they imbued 4 boulders with their powers. The stones were taken care of for generations until colonization buried them. And what I love about this is that there is the native language and then the translated English on each page of the story. I got interrupted by my kids, and this is why we do 1 video a month. I love them. I really do. Obviously. But I'm always with them. Ugh. Okay, sorry. This is one of the holds that came in yesterday. Mother Thing by Ainsley Hogarth. This is a haunting story in which a couple moves in with the husband's mother, who then kills herself and haunts them. Intriguing. I don't know. I needed to find a native or indigenous authored horror story, so I found this available through my library, Him Standing by Richard Wagamese. I believe it is about a spirit mask that like takes control of people who wear it. I'm not totally sure. I don't think I've read Richard Wagamese before. Wait. No. I don't think I have. I've heard of the name. So this will be my introduction to him. Nice and short. And then, wait till you see the size of this last library book. Oh my gosh, when the librarian pulled it off the hold shelf for me, I was like, excuse me? Was not prepared for that. This is In the Spirit of Crazy Horse by Peter Mathiasen. So I read, my gosh, again, this is supposed to be in another video. I read Flight by Sherman Alexie, and that kind of takes you on like a time jumping tour of Native issues, Native history, and I don't know, it got me searching for other books on my library website. This was available, and so I put it on hold and did not pay attention to how freaking big it is. There's no way I'm going to read all of this. I will flip through, maybe. All right, that's all my library books. I bought books too. Before today, at least they were all used books, but today I bought 2 brand new books. Spent a small fortune at a museum gift shop today. I'm not even sorry. Okay, so first used book. I had a free book credit on thriftbooks.com. Loved that. I bought the Mabinogion. This is Heather's Fault. Soggy expat book nerd. Always talking about the Mabinogion, and after reading some ancient poems and stories, mythologies for Short of September, I was like, you know what? We're doing it. We're buying the Mabinogion. I think I'll like it. So, got that one. Then when I was organizing my bookshelves and I was looking at my John Connolly books and remembered that The Gates is actually part of a series, so I ordered the 2 books that go with that. The Infernals and The Creeps. So in the gates, there is a young boy who basically has to stop demons from taking over the world on Halloween night. And this continues that. And then along with that order, I think I had a free book credit on that order too. I got Patricia Highsmith's The Talented Mr. Ripley, because I've seen this movie, never read the book, but I feel like there have been several things I've read recently that, without having much knowledge of the story itself, I keep getting like, Daisy, stop. Weird dog. I keep getting like reminded of this, even though, so I've never read this, but other books were like reminding me of it from what I know of it from the movie. And so I think this is a classic thriller. I've heard nothing but praise for this book, so I ordered it. thriftbooks.com. And then Erin of Erin Go Reads has been making her way through The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins, so I got myself a copy of that too. Okay, so then when the kids and I went pumpkin picking, we went to a farm in Cheshire that happens to be like right around the corner from a used bookstore. It's a non-profit used bookstore, and so I love shopping there. I grabbed this book, which was on my Christmas list, Sarah Addison Allen's Other Birds. I'm pretty sure I've read all of her novels. She's like Alice Hoffman, but less problematic. Because one thing I've realized is that as much as I love Alice Hoffman, like, she has some questionable relationships in her stories. Borderline trashy. And so this is like a more breezy, chiclety version of Alice Hoffman, in my opinion. There's always like this underlying magic that's not like in your face fantasy, but there's magical tones, and I love it. Don't even know what this is about, but because I went through, like, I binged all her books, whatever I could find on like Scribd, she's an auto buy for me. So I picked that up for myself. So then I picked up The White Sargasso Sea, which is something I need to reread because I read it on ebook, like online, but I think it was a bad copy and things were kind of jumbled and there was errors in the text and I really didn't enjoy it. And so I think if I sit down with it and just like take my time, enjoy the full experience, I may like this book better. Like I said, I'm a fan of Jane Eyre. And I totally agree with the problematic issues of Jane Eyre, and so I want to love this book, which is the story of Bertha Mason before she was Edward's wife and becoming Edward's wife. I think I remember being surprised that Edward has a point of view in the novel, I think. And that kind of shook me. Like, I really thought this would be all Bertha's story from her perspective. Also there, I got The Night Watchman by Louise Erdrich. And speaking of Alice Hoffman, The Drowning Season. Alice Hoffman is an auto buy for me. I have a whole shelf of her books that I have not read. Okay. Today we went to the Pequot Museum, and in the bookstore I had to buy some books. So I got Potiki. This is a 1987 New Zealand Fiction Award. This compelling novel will resonate for people everywhere who find their livelihood threatened by dollar men, property speculators advocating golf courses, high-rises, shopping malls, and tourist attractions. In Potiki, one community's response to attacks on their ancestral values and symbols provides moving affirmation of the relationship between land and the people who live on it. that sounds fantastic. Had to get it. And then the museum is actually hosting a book club, which I won't attend because the museum is over an hour from my house. But I got the book that they're reading. It's called Sacred Instructions, Indigenous Wisdom for Living Spirit-Based Change. This book offers a set of cultural values that will preserve our collective survival for future generations. Sherry Mitchell addresses some of the most crucial issues of our day, such as environmental protection and human rights. And then on the way home, we stopped at the Book Barn. I was looking specifically for There by Tommy Orange, which I have the ebook, but I've been wanting to reread it, and I want to like flag it and highlight it and all that stuff. So I need a physical copy. So I stopped into the Book Barn because I had store credit. Unfortunately, I didn't find it, but I did find Open Water, which has been on my hey, if you see it, use, pick it up kind of like list in the back of my mind. So I did. I don't even remember what this is about, except that it was all over Bookstagram a little while ago. Love story, but not, maybe? I don't know. An immigration story? I don't remember, but putting this aside for Shorty September, probably. Okay, I'm done. That really, we're at the end of November now. That should be my last book haul for a long time. Am I going to do the Read What You Own challenge? I should. I might. Maybe I'll wait to get through the holidays and make that like a New Year's resolution. What do you think? Okay, I have to go. Bye.